Here are 10 strategies to help you win a word search.
Tip 1. Ignore the word list at first. To start the puzzle, I ignore the word list at first and just search out all the words I can find, focusing on the larger words as they are usually the ones in the list. Small words of only 3 or 4 letters show up less often and are sometimes accidental byproducts of the different letters tossed in to create the puzzle. Searching first in one direction and then in the other, both horizontally and vertically, I go through the entire puzzle. Personally, I don't try the diagonals for this, but you might want to try that one as well. Tip 2. Search for multiple words at a time. Look for more than one word at a time. This is especially helpful if you're playing on an electronic device or online and there's a timer involved. Timers may or may not matter to you. It depends on the type. Some will time you out of the game entirely and end the game if you fail to beat the timer. Others simply have a bonus for beating the timer, but the game continues anyway and the timer keeps counting to track your best and, sadly, your worst times and scores. Tip 3. Turn the puzzle upside down. This one only works with the paper and pencil type of puzzle, but oddly enough, sometimes if you turn the whole puzzle book upside down, a word may leap out at you that you hadn't noticed or been able to spot before. It can be a long shot unless you're fairly comfortable with being able to read things upside down in the first place, but it really can help show some words. Tip 4. Try using the words in a goofy phrase. Make up crazy nonsense sentences or phrases. The goofier the better. It'll help you recall the words you're searching for. This is, of course, when you're looking for more than one word at a time. For example, suppose the word list included these words: shoe, stagecoach, rainbow, and honeysuckle. You can add in a couple of extra words to make the sentence. Your brain will remember those that are not in the word list. So, for example, I might come up with something like this: the stagecoach brake shoe smelled like a honeysuckle rainbow. Now, it doesn't really make any sense, but it'll help you remember the words you're trying to look for so you don't have to look back and forth from the word search to the word bank as often. Tip 5. Scan for impossible words. Find those impossible to find words. There's always at least one that it seems you can't find. You usually leave them for last anyway and move on, especially in a timer-controlled game. However, there are a couple of tricks to find these words that you think you can't find. For example, one of the most effective is to simply run a finger along each row in turn, stopping at every instance of the first letter of the word. When found, run your finger around to the letters around it in every direction, looking for the second and then third letters in the word. Move on to the next until found. Usually this works. However, there are rare times that the puzzle makers goofed and a word on the list gets left out of the actual puzzle. It's annoying and frustrating because you can't really finish the puzzle. Tip 6. Widen your focus. If you don't want to spend the whole time going over one letter at a time, there is an option of just looking at the puzzle as a whole. Widen your focus and look at the entire grid. If you've already found a lot of words, look how the puzzle now looks overall. You may have sort of highlighted the word you're looking for by the way of all the other crisscrossing lines. In other words, it's a negative space highlight. And in online or electronic device games, this is even more noticeable. You'll see the word that the white space that isn't highlighted or circled, and that might be where your word is. Tip 7. Look for the final letters of the word instead of the beginning. You can go along the entire puzzle searching for the last letters of the word, and if you haven't had any luck finding it from the first few letters, using the final few letters can be very helpful. Tip 8, talk to yourself. If you're alone at home where you won't be disturbing those around you, go ahead and mutter the words you're searching aloud. Believe it or not, it can help your brain spot the word and help you remember the word you're looking for. Back up and go forward. Tip 9. Sometimes you'll find a word, but it isn't in the word bank. If you look at the end of that word or the beginning of that word, it might be a part of a longer word. For example, it could be part of a compound word, or it could be a part of a word that has a longer ending. So if you back up and go forward, you might be able to find the actual word in the word bank from the smaller word that you just found. Tip 10, experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. If you try sounding out words to yourself or looking at oddball words, you might be able to accidentally find a new word you didn't know before. For the most part, these words will not be in common usage. But if you find these words that aren't so familiar and you experiment with words that kind of look like oddballs, you might be able to find the real words in the word bank.